Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm bringing you my April wrap up, so everything that I read in April. And I am fortunate enough that I get to read in my downtime at work. So I read a total of 22 books this month. Honestly, I probably would have read more, but I'm in grad school, so I have a lot of school stuff to do. I'm actually taking a YA literature class, so a lot of these books I had to read for my class, so that worked out really nicely. So I'm sorry if this video gets a little bit lengthy. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So let's just jump right in. So the first book I read is Little Brother by Cory Doctorow, and I actually got this from my local library, so I'll just leave a picture of the book up here. So basically that book is about Marcus, aka Winston, which is his online name. He's 17 years old and he goes to this school that's kind of big brothery. There's surveillance, they monitor all the internet activity, they monitor who comes in and out of the school, there's trackers on all the students, there's trackers in the library books. Like Big Brother at its finest. And Marcus / Winston is an expert hacker. So he has come up with all these ways to get around the system so that he can basically just live his life without being tracked 24/7. And basically this huge terrorist attack happens in San Francisco where they live one day, and he and his friends are taken by the Department of Homeland Security to a secret prison and questioned and tortured to figure out if they're part of the terrorist group that blew up the Golden Gate Bridge. And then when DHS finally releases them, his friend Daryl is missing. And the whole city basically becomes like a police state, and every citizen is treated as a potential terrorist, and it just continues from there. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Normally I wouldn't have picked it up, but I had to read it for class, and I actually enjoyed it for the most part. It's not usually my cup of tea, but if you're into sci-fi and kind of the Big Brother type of books, I would definitely check it out. It did win a few awards, and it is a really cool concept. So again, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so I pretty much enjoyed it. The next book I read is The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. I also had to read this for class. So basically it's about Anadora Kiladra Taliana Isley. Hope I pronounced that correctly. She is the crown princess of Kilindry, and she has spent the beginning of her life listening to her aunt's stories about being able to talk to animals and listening to the wind and being able to basically talk with nature. And once her aunt goes back home, her mom pretty much puts the damper on that from the get-go. And Annie, or Isley, is she doesn't really know how valuable all of that is going to become until she is set to marry a prince from a neighboring kingdom, and on her way to that kingdom she's betrayed by her lady-in-waiting and many of the troop that took her there, and she ends up becoming a peasant in this kingdom while she plans how to get back her rightful place. And while she's there, she becomes a herder of geese with another boy, and she basically learns how to hone her talent, and we just learn a whole bunch more about her. It's basically on a Grimm's fairy tale of the Goose Girl. So I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite. It was kind of slow in places, and it read a little young, even though it was labeled young adult. So I do think that for children that are younger, like middle school, upper elementary school, they'd really like this. It's part of a series, The Books of Bayern, if I pronounce that right. But everybody that I know that has read Shannon Hale really likes her, so that's just my personal opinion. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but it was a cute story. Next book I read is Release by Patrick Ness. This is one I also had to read for school. This is my first Patrick Ness, and I have to say, if you have not read any of his work, it takes a little getting used to. So this one is about Adam Thorne, who's 17, and he is gay. And his family is extremely, extremely conservative Christian. And his father's a preacher at the church. And he hasn't come out to his family. His best friend knows, but he's never come out officially to his family. And the book is based in, it starts out in one day, which turns out to be the most difficult day of Adam's life. All his relationships seem to be messing up, and he gets sexually harassed, and then he has a fight with his dad, and everything changes, and it's such a horrible day. But intertwined in this story is a story about a queen, and everything that Adam's feeling, she's feeling, and vice versa. And to be honest, I gave this book 3 stars only because I loved Adam's story. It was really good and it was really well written, but I really didn't care about the queen. I kind of see what Patrick Ness was trying to do, but it just wasn't my thing. So the saving grace for this book was Adam's story. And the next book I read is one of my favorite books that I read this month. And that is The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. And her writing is beautiful. It's gorgeous. This book is based on Hindu mythology, and it's about this girl Maya, and she lives in a kingdom that when you're born you get a horoscope, and that kind of determines your life. So her horoscope was that she would have a marriage of death and destruction, and her father is the king or the Raja. So in the harem with all the Raja's wives, she's basically scorned from the moment she's born because, you know, she's going to be married with death, so why be nice and why bother? So then her father arranges this marriage of convenience to avoid war, and something happens. Her father comes up with the solution, and Maya is on the precipice of going through with it, and this random suitor, Amar, his name is Amar, he promises her that if she becomes his queen, she'll be his equal, she'll be able to rule over the kingdom of Acheron, and all she has to do is just come with him. So she does. And once she's there, she's kind of learning her role. There's rooms that she's not allowed to go into, and she can't learn the secrets of this place until the full moon, whenever that is. And the more you get into it, the more secrets come about, and we slowly unravel them piece by piece. And in the end, she has to go on this quest to save someone she loves, and it's just beautiful. And The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. The next book after that, I'm finally jumping on the Mortal Instruments series, and I read City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Finally. So, yeah, main character Clary Frey heads to this club in New York where she witnesses a murder. And the murder is committed by three teenagers that have these strange markings all over them. And they end up being shadow hunters, which is the people that are in the entire Mortal Instruments series. And these shadow hunters are dedicated to ridding the earth of demons, and they also help to keep werewolves and vampires in line and keep the peace and harmony. So within a whole day of witnessing a murder, she's all of a sudden just sucked into the shadow hunters world, and her mother disappears and Clary's attacked, and she's just trying to figure out what all this has to do with each other, and you know what her life is going to be like, and she's trying to find her mother, and it's just chaos. And Cassandra Clare's writing is really good. Even though this one is my least favorite so far of the Mortal Instruments books that I've read, it's still really good. I gave it 5 stars. So I highly recommend you jump into the series if you haven't already. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. So the next book I read, I listened to on audio through my local library, and that is Lean Mean 13 by Janet Ivanovich. This is the 13th book in the Stephanie Plum series, and this is one of my all-time favorite series. I've reread all these books like 5 times, and they are laugh out loud hilarious. Listening to them on audio is even better than reading the book because Lorelei King is an excellent narrator, and she's able to incorporate different voices for the characters, and she just brings their personalities out, and it's just so funny. But basically, Stephanie Plum is a bounty hunter. She's not really that good at it most of the time. She gets by pure luck. And her partner in crime is Lola, who is a former hoe turned file clerk at Stephanie's cousin Vinny's bounty hunting office, bail bonds office. And she's in an on-again, off-again relationship with cop Joseph Morelli, and her mentor Ranger is this really sexy Cuban American that is like the grade A top dog bounty hunter. So there's kind of a love triangle going on as well. In this book, Stephanie's ex-husband Dickie Orr disappears, and somehow his disappearance is tied into some of the skips that she's trying to trace, and it's just one big laugh out loud chaotic mystery, and I just can't recommend it enough. So the next book I read, I had to read for school, and that was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. And this is about a girl named Blue, and she lives with her mom and a few aunts who are all psychics, but Blue is not a psychic. She is kind of like a battery. She helps amplify their energy. And it's also about these 4 boys that go to a private school in Henrietta, Virginia, where they all live. And they're known as the Raven Boys. So it's Gansby, Adam, Ronan, and Noah. And Blue and the Raven Boys get connected through some incidents, and basically Blue had a prophecy about her that said that when she kisses her true love, he will die. So that's the premise going into the book. And Gansey is a super rich, witty, humorous student at the Aglenby School, and he is on a search for a dead Welsh king, Glendower. And the legend is when you find Glendower, you get a wish. So this book is the start of their journey to find the Welsh king Glendower, and Blue becomes part of their group because she helps amplify the energy. So she helps amplify the ley lines or lines of energy that supposedly are where Glendower resides. This is part of the Raven cycle. There's 4 books in the series. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars because you go into the book thinking that, you know, Blue's gonna kiss her true love and he's gonna die. But romance isn't really touched on in this book. This is probably my least favorite book in the Raven cycle that I've read right now. This one I think is mainly just getting you invested in the characters and the story and building up the world. And I would still recommend this book because I do really like the other books in the series. This is my least favorite of all of them, but definitely check it out. Next book I read is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. And this is basically a dark retelling of The Little Mermaid, which is what intrigued me. So basically, Princess Lyra is a siren, and she is royalty. Her mom reigns over the Siren Kingdom. So every year, she gets a heart from a sailor, and this is tradition for all sirens. But Lyra, in particular, gets Prince's heart, so she's known as the Prince's Bane. So the opening line to this book is, "I have a heart for every year that I've been alive," and how can you not get into a book that starts like that? So Lyra does something that she shouldn't have done, and her mom is really vindictive and cruel. She's kind of like Ursula in The Little Mermaid, and she basically banishes her to the mortal world, and she takes her song away. So she can't sing her siren song to lure people in. So she has to learn to live with that. And throughout this process, she gets involved with Prince Elian, who is the siren killer of his kingdom. And they both end up starting this friendship, and then they go on a quest with a similar goal, and they're kind of helping each other, and they don't really trust each other at first, but they learn to. And I liked this book a lot more than I thought I would. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But again, it's a dark retelling of The Little Mermaid, if that tells you anything, but I really liked it, so I highly recommend you go check it out. Next book I read was City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare, and this just continues the City of Bones series, or the Mortal Instruments series, and it's really hard to give a summary of these books after the first one because you don't want to spoil anything. So I'll just say this is a continuation of Clary and Simon and Jace and Izzy and all the Shadow Hunters, and check it out because it is a fantastic series. Next book I read was The City of Glass, number 3 in the Mortal Instruments series. And again, I can't really give you too much. I will say, publication order, Cassandra Clare wrote the City of Bones, City of Ashes, and City of Glass, then jumped to the Infernal Devices series. So this one kind of wraps up the first 3 books, and it is amazing. This was my favorite of the Mortal Instruments so far. Check it out, for real. There's so much character development in this book. Just stick with it. It's amazing. Next book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. And this is about this girl named Jude, and she is a mortal, and her sister ends up being half fairy. So when her sister's dad comes, basically kills Jude's mom and dad, and takes Vivian, Jude's older sister, Jude, and then her younger sister back with him to the court of fairy. And then it jumps 10 years ahead, and Jude is trying to find her place in the court, and all the fairies are extremely cruel. Like, it was painful to read at times. They're bullies, and it almost got where it was a little too much. Like, it hurt my heart, but it does have a really cool plot. I don't want to give too much away, but Jude basically becomes like this amazingly like strong character, and you just get so involved in the politics of the fairy world, and it was pretty good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. How gorgeous is this cover? Like, for real. So this book is about the Swan sisters, and they lived 2 centuries ago, and they were sentenced to death for being witches, and they were drowned in the water surrounding the town of Sparrow. Now go ahead 200 years. Summer, the sisters return, and they steal the bodies of 3 girls so that they can lure boys to the water and they can kill them as their revenge on the town of Sparrow. So Penny is the main character in this book, and she's just kind of accepted this every year, and this is the year that you feel like everything's going to change. She meets this new boy, Bo Carter, and he moves into town, and he ends up working at the lighthouse where she lives. And basically this novel just like explodes from there. Everything starts to happen. The sisters return, people start to die, and then there's kind of a mystery, which I can't say anything specific because it'll give it away, but it was like an oh my god moment. So I flew through this book. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. Next book I read was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Infernal Devices series. This is set in Victoria, England, and it's about Tessa Gray, who gets kidnapped by these dark sisters, and they're members of a secret organization called the Pandemonium Club, which you should remember from City of Bones. And Tessa soon learns that she has the power to change into other people, and the Dark Sisters want to use that to their advantage. Dark forces want to claim Tessa's power for their own. She somehow gets set free by Will Herondale and Jim Carstairs, the shadow hunters in this book, and she goes to live with them so that they can find her brother Nate, who disappears, and all these things happen. And I really like this series. I think I like it more than the Mortal Instruments. I really like these characters more, and there's a really good love triangle in this book. Sometimes those irritate me, but this one is done really well. It's not insta-lovey. They just kind of subtly go into the love triangle, and at one point you're Team Will, and at one point you're Team Jim, and you just can't decide. The next book I read, I had to read for school, and it has become one of my most favorite fantasy books. So it is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is probably the most gorgeous book I've read since I can remember. The writing is stunning. The story is really good. The world building in this book is phenomenal. So basically, Laszlo Strange is a librarian, and he is obsessed with the lost city of Weep. And one day he gets an opportunity to go to the lost city of Weep, and he jumps on it. And that is all you need to know going into this story. There's 2 stories that kind of intertwine, and then they connect in the book. And it's just such a beautiful story, and the writing's beautiful. And this book did force me to slow down while I was reading because of the way it was written, but I didn't mind that because I was just enjoying the writing so much. And there is a sequel to this one, Muse of Nightmares, that's coming out later this year. I think it's in October. But definitely check this book out because I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I could just gush about it all day. Go check it out. Next book I read, I had to read for school, and that was The Fault in Our Stars, which I think most people are already familiar with. Of course, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's my third time reading it, and I ugly sobbed through the end of it. And just go read it and go watch the movie because they're beautiful and amazing. Is Far From the Tree by Robin Benway, and this actually won the National Book Award. So this is about 3 teenagers who are adopted to separate families, or 2 are adopted and 1 is in foster care for his whole life. And you basically learn about these 3 characters individually, and then their stories come together when they find each other and they decide to go find their mom after something happens. And it's just such a beautiful story, and I cried through some of it, sad tears, and then I cried happy tears, and it's a really good book about what it means to be family, even if you're not biologically related. And the relationship between the 3 characters in this book is really beautiful. So I highly recommend that you check this out. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Infernal Devices series, and this just continues the story of Tessa Gray and Jem and Will, and they're solving more of the mystery that ended in the first book, ended on a huge cliffhanger. This one also ends on a huge cliffhanger, but it's a good one. Check it out. Next book I read was Guilty as Cinnamon, and it is a cozy mystery by Leslie Budowitz. It is the second book in the Spy Shop mystery series, and the main character, Pepper Reese, has a spy shop in Seattle's Pike Place Market. Her business is booming, and she has this herb, Butte C, or capsicum, which is a super, super, super hot pepper. And one day, one of Pepper's potential clients is found dead, and she is murdered by Butte C, which is a spice that Pepper carries in her shop. So from there, Pepper tries to solve the mystery herself because it involves her shop, and things happen. Her shop gets set on fire, sabotage, and of course, in the end, Pepper solves the mystery, and it's just a really good, cozy mystery. I'm almost done, I swear. The next book I read was To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, and I actually listened to this one on Audible, which I really enjoyed. The narrator was really good. But basically, this book is about Laura Jean Song Covey, and she has only loved 5 boys in her whole life, and her way to let that go and get over that love is to write a love letter, and then she saves it. And one day, her letters get mailed out, and chaos ensues, and it just goes from there, and there's a love triangle. Honestly, this isn't like my favorite book, but it is a really cute, sweet, contemporary YA romance. And of course, halfway through this, I had to go buy the other 2 books because it's a trilogy, and I will definitely be reading them. 3 more to go. The next book is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Raven Cycle series. I liked this a lot better than the Raven Boys. We get a lot more character development in this book, and we learn a lot more about Ronan Lynch, who can steal things out of dreams. What? So yeah, and they're still looking for Glendower, and more things happen that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it, but I really like this. I fell in love with Ronan in this book, and I flew through this book. And I immediately picked up the 3rd book, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, which I'm reading right now. So just push yourself through the Raven Boys if you're having a little trouble, because you will not be disappointed with the Dream Thieves or Blue Lily, Lily Blue. This book, you guys. This book, Turtles All the Way Down. I cried so hard through this book. It's basically about this girl, Aza, and she has really bad anxiety and OCD, and her friend Daisy, and someone they go to, or they used to know Davis. His father is this billionaire and he goes missing. So Asa and Daisy try to solve the mystery to win a $100,000 reward. But that's just a subplot. The main plot in this story is you are inside Asa's head. And it's so good. It's so good. This whole book kind of feels like you're in a panic attack. But that's how Asa feels all the time. So it was so realistic. And I can't recommend this book enough. I wrote a pretty lengthy review on it, and I will link it down below so that you can read it on my blog so I don't take up the whole video. But I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite John Green book by far. And it has the most realistic portrayal of mental illness that I've read in a very long time. So, and the last book I read is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. And as I was reading this, I was not okay. I ugly sobbed through this entire book, but in a good way. So this is about Marin and her lost relationship with her friend Mabel, and it's set in past and present tense. So as you're going through the present, Mabel visits Marin during a college break, and they're trying to repair their relationship, and then interspersed in the chapters where they're repairing their relationship, you see Marin's past and how they got to where they are. And it's basically just about loss and grief and healing. And this entire book feels like a huge depressive episode. And if you've ever had depression, you know how heavy and hopeless that feels. And I think Nina LaCour did an exceptional job on this, because I think if you've never felt it, this book will help you understand it, because it makes you feel it. But at the same time, she loses someone really close to her, and it just makes you remember all the good memories of people that you've lost. And this is very character driven. It's not really plot driven, so just be aware of that. But it's such a beautiful book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it's wonderful, and I've been recommending it to everyone. So anyway, I'm so sorry that this video has been insanely long, but that is because I've read so many books this month, which is awesome. So if you have any comments or anything, please comment below, and please subscribe if you like my channel, and thanks again for watching. Bye.